Hello, and thank you for joining us for Just Ask Dr. Macie and guests. I'm your host. I'm Dr. Macie Smith, the social gerontologist providing education, training, and caregiver coaching to help you and your families reach the next best level of care. Mental health is a topic of discussion that many of us deign and sometimes dare to discuss, but it's what we don't discuss about mental health that could have devastating effects on our life. Although mental health is a taboo in many of our communities, this particular term has been top of mind since the dramatic exit of Tampa Bay Buccaneers Antonio Brown. So much so that there have been a barrage of social media posts and tweets about whether or not the NFL is doing anything to support the mental and emotional health of our players. But just like any other topic, I'm not going to answer those questions myself. I brought along some friends that's going to help me break these things down. Joining us now are Donnie Shell, Lamonte Winston, and Kevin Winston. And if you all don't mind, I would like to take a few minutes to introduce each of these guys to you so that way you can have a better understanding and better insight of each of their contributions to this very topic. First is my friend and colleague, Mr. Donnie Shell. Donnie is considered to be one of the greatest success stories of the NFL. Donnie has played football for South Carolina State University, Go Bulldogs, where he earned All-American and All-Conference honors. He was elected to the MEAC Hall of Fame, the South Carolina Athletic Hall of Fame, and the College Football Foundation Hall of Fame. He's just an all-around Hall of Famer. Donnie joined the Pittsburgh Steelers in 1974 as a member of the famed Pittsburgh Steelers Steel Curtain Defense. I think that was kind of hard. Donnie went on to win not one, not two, not three, y'all, but 4 Super Bowls. He was selected to represent the AFC in the Pro Bowl 5 consecutive times. Upon retiring from the NFL, Donnie became the director of player development for the Carolina Panthers. Oh, let me say that again. For the Carolina Panthers. All of the programs were designed to help players succeed following their on-field careers. In 2002, the NFL Player Development Department created the Winston Shell Award to honor Donnie for being one of the pioneers in player development. Donnie is the president of the Donnie Shell Foundation, and he is the 2020 Pro Bowl Hall of Famer. Hey there, Donnie. Thank you for being here.
Good morning, Macie. Good to be here.
Yes, thank you. Then we have Kevin Winston. Kevin is the senior consultant for NFL player engagement. Prior to his role as senior consultant, he was the vice president of player affairs for the Atlanta Falcons, vice president of player development for the New York Jets, director of player development for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Kevin's primary focus is to develop players into lifelong learners while pursuing continuous improvement in financial and family relations, social interactions, personal growth, and career development during and beyond their careers in the NFL. Thank you for being here, Kevin.
Good morning, and thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Thank you. And last but certainly not least, we have Mr. Lamonte Winston, president and CEO of the Winston Group. Lamonte has over 25 years of hands-on experience working with professional and collegiate athletes in all areas of their professional and personal lives. During his tenure as executive director of player development for the Kansas City Chiefs and director of player engagement for the Oakland Raiders, Lamonte was involved with preseason game evaluations, NFL combine evaluations, psychological and character evaluations for draft eligible players, and the site visit coordination and evaluation of restricted and unrestricted free agents. Lamonte has been recognized by ESPN, the magazine, and the NFL for his experience working with professional athletes. I have got to say that I am on the line today with the real MVPs. Is it okay if I say that, guys?
Absolutely.
We're part of a team. We're part of a team effort.
Part of a team effort. Well, good. So let's jump right into it. What is the origin of the player development and the player engagement program? How did it start and when did it start? Lamont, I'm gonna shoot that question to you.
Okay, thank you, Macie. NFL player engagement, as we know it today, was actually called player programs. And it was instituted by Commissioner Paul Tagliabue in 1991 and kind of started with Dr. Lynn Burnham out of the league office. When I got involved, and it was really just a brochure. When I got involved in '94, I got hold of the brochure, but it really began to take root '94, '95 in our locker rooms, where we were able to take it to the players, where the clubs actually decided that this was something that we were going to do league-wide, and we're going to have designated person to run that and bring that to the forefront for our players. So it's evolved. It started as player programs, as I mentioned. It evolved into player development for a number of years, and then now where it is today, rebranded as NFL player engagement.
So how receptive, I would say, was the NFL? Like, what made this particular program evolve? What made it come to top of mind to say, hey, this is what we need? And how receptive was the NFL when this thought process came to be or came to fruition?
Well, I think, Macie, they had a vision from the league office standpoint, but then there's the club level. And I think once they, each club designated a person in this particular role, like anything, you begin to start educating not only the coaches and the leadership, but then there's also the players. And when the players get involved, that's a good barometer and measure of the importance of it. And when they did that around the league, players got involved on various levels. There was 4 pillars that this was built on: continuing education, internship opportunities, financial education, and family assistance. And so one of those 4 pillars, players got involved. And like I said, when they get involved, everybody pays attention. And then there becomes the value.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. Donnie, you are credited as being one of the pioneers for this particular program. How does it make you feel to be one of the pioneers, and how are you keeping that legacy going?
I just follow Lamont.
That might be a smart move.
That might be a good move. It feels great. I was just talking to Kevin the other day, and I was telling them about how Lamont and I, when we first got started in 1994, I with the Carolina Panthers, how we used to go to the league office, meet with the league office, and encourage them to hire a player development director for every team. It's a need for that. And today, to see where they've come from, and they are now with all the resources. I think Kevin will speak to that later. I am very happy and satisfied with the resources that the players, not only current players, but former players have now.
And you mentioned it, it's still in place today. So Kevin, being on the line and being affiliated with these pioneers or these triple OGs, where are we now with this particular type of program with our current players? And as Donnie stated, this program is also available in some form or fashion to former NFL players as well.
Yeah, so let me just say that they're both been a little modest, like they're triple OGs, right, in this particular space, because where they started at and where this is right now, not only is there player engagement at the NFL level, but there's also player engagement at the collegiate level, and there's also player engagement at the high school level. And that's on the shoulders of what Lamont and Donnie started. And as you alluded to his award, the Winston Shell Award for both of these guys, you said one key word in there: innovation. So it wasn't just bringing the resources, it was the innovation that they saw what the players need, and they met the players in the locker room where they were at. They showed value, as Lamont alluded to, the leadership, and as Donnie alluded to the league office, about the importance of providing resources for the players from a holistic standpoint to touch them in different areas. So where we stand today, Like Donnie said, I feel like, obviously on my side that we are the leaders in supporting our players in professional sports. Lamonte talked about the continuing education piece where guys are able to go back to school and we create degree completion programs for certifications, graduate assistance, certification programs, the financial literacy piece where there's wealth management courses for the guys to learn how to manage their money, the psychology of money, the professional development piece where guys can do internships, shadows, job opportunities. These are all things that have evolved over time with the player. There are things right now in the social justice space that's available for players. And then obviously, as you want to get to, is the player assistance and the resources that are provided for the player in the mental health space, not just for the player, but for their ecosystem, right? For their spouses, for their children. There's counseling available to the guys. There are 24-hour hotlines that are available, as you alluded to with the NFL Legends community, which is for former players that Donnie talked about. And there's a great relationship between the NFL and the NFL Players Association on the trust program. So there's a full menu of services that are available to the guys 24/7.
So, and that's really to the holistic approach that you all tend to speak about when you're talking about player engagement, player development. It's really naive to think that it's just about the player. When you talk about, Kevin, that holistic approach to caring for the whole player, how involved and how receptive are the family members? It could be a spouse, it could be a parent, it could be a good friend. How receptive are they about getting involved or, just receiving the same type of supports that are available to the players? Because I'll tell you, when it comes to mental health and mental illness, and Donnie, you and I have talked about this quite a bit too, when we talk about including the family members in various aspects, some of those early signs and those symptoms of a potential emotional break, the folks closest to them may be the ones to actually see that break coming. So how receptive and how much do they participate in the programs that are available?
Yeah, so I would tell you that, from the draft process to free agency, when players come into the clubs, we want to get to touch and know the family members, the people who are at the center of their lives. And so there's an onboarding process that not only goes on for the players, but there's an onboarding process that goes on for the family members. Because once you're drafted or signed as a free agent and you make the NFL roster, you're somebody too, right? You're wearing your Panthers gear right now. Those family members are wearing that in their hometowns or in the city's hometowns, and we understand that, right? And we understand that it takes a full team to support the players. So there is sessions that come in for players and their families. There are sessions that we do with players and their spouses. Every team has a team clinician that's in the building 3 to 4 days a week, if not full time on staff, that the players can meet with. There's a ton of resources that are available that allows the guys to have hopefully a smooth and supportive transition and journey while they're in the National Football League.
Great. Those are things that I didn't know. Even though, Donnie, don't tell the secrets, even though I only go to the football games for the food and the drinks, sometimes I watch when there's
and the camaraderie,
a touchdown or
right? There's a
something.
camaraderie piece to it too, right? The camaraderie.
The social aspect
social
of
aspect.
it.
Yeah, that's
We
what
just
we're
gotta
talking
keep it
about.
real. You
Okay.
mentioned about the transitioning piece.
Mm-hmm.
High school,
Mm-hmm.
Lamonte, Donnie, college. What does that transition look like? What does that level of support look like on the high school level and the college level? Because I remember back in the day, and when I say back in the day, I think I'm talking about like the late 90s, early 2000s, when high schoolers were drafted into the national leagues. They didn't have to go to college and they were drafted out of college. I had a classmate who was drafted right out of high school, and you talk about the mental, financial, and emotional immaturity that comes along with that. So I'm interested in knowing, what does that transition piece or that development piece, what does that look like on the high school level and on the college level? And how has the work that you all have done, Donnie and Lamonte, and the work that you all do, Kevin, actually prepare those student athletes to become successful professional players?
Lamont?
You see how he, Lamont, you see how he do, right? You see how he do you, right?
Yeah. To be honest with you, it starts, Macie. It starts with education, and in education, it delves into trust. I mean, to get anyone to begin to learn something that they don't really know in a situation that's kind of right up on them. The only way to really get to it is through education. And I think what's happened is, I think when you were speaking about, classmates getting drafted out of high school, that's NBA. NFL players have to go to college, right? So, so there are some safeguards, but even with that, the colleges and the high schools understand that, these same issues that they've seen that happen with professional athletes on TV, it's happening in their own lives every day, day to day. It doesn't matter whether you're in high school, or actually it starts in middle school. If you really want to know today's athletes, it's really starting in middle school, and a lot of premier situations and all these different things. Well, the educational process, not only for the young person, but for their families, to get them to understand that there needs to be a level of balance in that young man or woman's life, right? So, the key to transition is education. Okay, now, we all have to, in education and the willingness to learn, again, there's two words, okay? There's vulnerability and trust, okay? And you have to leave yourself a little bit vulnerable so you can learn the things that you don't know. And it's scary.
Yeah,
It's not
vulnerability is very scary.
It's not necessarily, an easy thing to do. However, it's something that sports, high-level sports will reveal that. It'll get you to that point of vulnerability at some point.
Yeah.
Right? So the sooner you can learn that, the better.
Donnie, anything to add there? Because you and Lamont have the Winston Shell Award, which you've won, right, Kevin? Your department has won.
Absolutely.
Now, how full circle is that?
That's real, right? That's God is good.
Yeah,
definitely
he is
blessed
all the time.
all the time. No, but definitely blessed that again, it's Lamont and Donnie who really created, because it's 53 guys in a locker room, come from all different backgrounds, all in one particular area, 7-8 months at a time, and they share a lot, right? And so to be able to have that player engagement person that can come in there, to Lamont's point, earn the trust and be able to try to help these guys individually, sometimes is a tall task. But Lamont and Donnie were the ones that really engaged upper management, really engaged the high profile guys, really got players, we just had last season where a player took a mental health day. A player said, there's so much going on right now with one of the clubs that I just need to take a day off. Yeah. We had never heard of that in the NFL. And that's just how much we've evolved to be able to help and support and understand what players go through, and to be able to say that you have a support system where you don't have to walk alone, because we don't want any player to come in this league and go through their journey alone. There's a bevy of resources and support that's available to them.
I love that. Anything to add to that, Donnie?
Yeah, just from the college standpoint, that we were taking our players and acting as mentors and going into the college setting and sharing with guys about the transition from college to professional ball. I think they did a great job of sharing their story and what they went through, and just giving them a little bird's eye view about what's going on. I remember when back in 1974, I signed as a free agent with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They had no one. They had no player programs. I think Bill Nunn was the scout and he was kind of like the player programs guy, but they didn't have any programs at all. So you had to find someone else to mentor you and break you in and get you acclimated to the National Football League. But now they have the player programs, like Mark said, and they got player engagement now. And we took our players and headed to the college ranks to get them kind of acclimated to coming into the National Football League.
Wonderful. And so, Kevin, you mentioned earlier about the bevy of resources and services, and you spoke to what many of those services were. How do current players and former players and their families access these services? You know, a lot of times we tell folks, well, this exists, well, that exists, but how do they get it?
I think they get it every way possible. We from the locker rooms to emails. There's actually, and Lamont and Donnie wouldn't know, but actually now there's a player portal for former and current players where you can actually, every player has their own ID. When you come into the National Football League, or if you played in the National Football League, you now have your own ID number. You can go to this player portal. It has every resource available. Whether you want to get a rental car, whether you want to see a doctor, every benefit that those guys have earned, it's all right there for them, but we just don't stop there. We understand that there are some guys who don't use computers, so we mail stuff out to some of the older guys. We are on social platforms. We meet the player where they're at to get them the resources. And we also have not just our player engagement people who are at the clubs, but we also have the NFL Legends, which has Legends coordinators for former players that are throughout the country in different regions. And they hit up those NFL cities and neighboring states that they make sure they stay in touch with the population, the NFL population. So right now there's over 12,000 NFL Legends former players that are registered in the network.
Wow. So it's almost like an alumni association.
It is definitely a family for sure. Once you in for good. And that's what it's all about. And it's really also too, Dr. Macie, the peer-to-peer, right? It's a lot of times these guys trust each other as they go through their journey and beyond. And the players sometimes take the resource to some of the guys who don't usually interact or not as engaged as much.
I love that. I love that peer-to-peer interaction. Well, I want to thank each of you for joining me today and just spending a little bit of your MVP time just educating us about what resources are available. As a social worker, I am very big on giving people tangible resources to assist with their overall well-being, which includes mental, emotional, physical, financial, social, that holistic approach. And you all have done just that. So what I'd like to do as we close is to talk about your foundations and how folks can actually get in contact with you. Donnie and Lamont, you guys aren't in current players or currently, in the NFL or, are doing your work, but you're still doing the work. So I'd like to hear a little bit more about that. And so folks will understand better how to get in contact with you. But before that, I have a burning question. So I'm from the South. So Lamont and Kevin, are y'all from the South?
No,
West
California.
Coast, Oakland.
Okay.
California guys.
Oh, they California guys. That's it. So Donnie's gonna know about this, but I got a condition, and usually Southerners have this little condition, and it's called nosy, right? So I'm like reading and doing research, and I'm like, so I'm saying, how did you, Lamont and Kevin, first of all, I had to ask, well, are they related? Because in the South, you really, if your last name is the same last name, you're probably first cousins, right? So y'all are related.
Yes.
Well, Lamont look like he probably don't want to claim Kevin. Kevin is like, is he gonna say it or he want me to say it?
No.
That's I've been fortunate to have a career following in my brother's footsteps, right? I'm a former crisis counselor in Oakland, and this was my brother's dream to be a part of the National Football League, and he was able to create a way to carve out a legacy of being able to help players or families uplift the league. And I've just been riding on his coattail. And when you do that, you get a chance to meet Hall of Famers like Donnie Shell.
Like Donnie, right?
And follow right behind. So I haven't said too much. I just kind of watched them, what they did, and just tried to emulate them, and then also to make them proud and to continue to elevate, because when we elevate in our player engagement space, it really benefits the players and their families.
Yeah. So you two, you don't have a background as a player. So to Kevin's point, Lamont, you just like carved this little thing out that say, hey, this is what we need, and I'm gonna make it happen.
Well, Macie, I mean, we all played college football, and so we didn't play in the league. We played in college, and it's those experiences. I coached college football for 12 years before I got in the NFL. So it's through all of those, and now I know how God was doing this. He
Yes.
had us, in college, high school, playing, coaching. So it doesn't really matter. The experiences was getting us prepared for the work that we are doing now. Okay.
That's right.
And so I was fortunate enough to have my brother join us, and he's extremely talented in this space, especially in that crisis space. And again, I think with all three of us, we've just found a way, as Kevin said, to uplift not only the players and their families, but also the people that do this work and the folks that don't know about this work. It's to be able to be advocates enough to where people can pay attention and say, hey, now I understand that these players and their families are cared for far beyond the number on their back.
Yeah, they gonna know today. I
Yeah.
like that you carved out a space, because I feel like I've carved out a space, because my mama want to know, well, what does football have to do with being a social worker? I said, tune in Thursday night at 6 p.m. and I'm gonna show you. So Donnie, tell us about your foundation. Each of you, we'll do Donnie, Lamont, and Kevin. We'll close out with Kevin and how folks can get in contact with you. And we'll be sure to have those resources down below in the description box.
Well, the Donnie Shell Foundation was created by my wife Paulette and I several years ago, and when I joined the Board of Trustees at South Carolina State University, I saw a need for students. Some students academically inclined and gifted, but didn't have the financial resources to continue to get their college education. Some of them need special needs, some of them need books and different things. So we came up with the Donnie Shell Scholarship Foundation, and we give gap scholarships. We fill in the financial gaps. They may need a book, they may need a computer. Sometimes they get an internship, and they have to fly to different cities. We can do that and help with that. We just fill in the financial gap for our students at South Carolina State University, and sometimes you give out a personal needs, hygiene needs. I came from 9 brothers and sisters. I didn't have a lot of stuff. I ran out of deodorant and everything else. So to have someone there to fill those particular needs, to keep them, their minds on their academic progress and getting their degree. That's what the Donnie Shell Scholarship Foundation is all about. And you can go to DonnieShell.com and click on the foundation and read about the foundation and what we're doing over there. We're trying to endow. In September, we launched the endowment of $500,000 to raise $500,000 to endow this scholarship. So, when I'm no longer there, or we no longer here, they'll always have monies to draw from.
Wonderful. And we appreciate everything that you do, Donnie. And thank you for your service on the Board of Trustees. Lamont?
Mine is not a foundation, Macie. When transition happened to me, like it does to everyone in the National Football League, I was looking for a way to continue to work with athletes, their families. And so I started the Winston Group, TWG. It's a life skills and sports consulting firm. And so we work with all athletes, especially our female population. I think a lot of times our female athletes are forgotten in this process. Yes. Okay, they and their needs. And so we work with teams, colleges. We'll do athlete forums. We'll do one-on-ones. We'll work with families who have challenging situations with their young student athletes. We work with coaching staffs. So we are just, this is what we do.
Yeah.
And through our educational platform of pushing excellence, that's kind of really where this thing is driven from, is our pushing excellence foundation part of it. But you can go to our website at the winstongroup.biz and take a look. You can contact me through there, or you can email me directly at lamontwinston@gmail.com.
Thank you so much, Lamont. And I really want to thank you for highlighting women in sports, because all too often you think of sports, people think of men, but women, we doing our thing. Now, I played basketball in high school. Now I'm from a really small town, North South Carolina, which we probably have about 20 people in the town. And I played for 4 years. Really, it was because I was tall, Kevin, but it didn't matter. I gave it my all. I couldn't shoot, but I could get the rebound. So I thank you for identifying women as an absolute need. Now, do you provide services and is your consultancy across the country, or is it in a particular area?
With Zoom and,
Yes, I
and
knew
a
you
lot
were
of
gonna
the
say that.
platforms, we're across the country. I'm located now in the Southeast in Ponte Vedra Beach, Florida. But wherever there's a need, we'll get there.
Okay, sounds good. Kevin, close us out.
Well, I don't have my own company, or I don't have a foundation, but what I would say is I support both of them. I'm still doing the work, as Lamonte talked about, still servicing the name on the back of the jersey and not the number. And so I would just say, if people need to really reach out and connect with me, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook, but I'm still continuing to try to support, create, and help. And to your point, Dr. Macie, about women, proud to say that the National Football League now has women officials. We have women coaches. We have women in our personnel department. So we have women starting to come up and be very successful in all platforms of the National Football League. And thank you for having me.
Thank you all. And look, and we receive all of that. Thank you all for joining me and for just spending a little bit of time on Just Ask Dr. Macie and Guest. And for you guys out there, we'll see you next time.